I regret leaving my family. The words weren't just a thought anymore. They lived in my chest like a slow-burning fire I couldn't put out. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. Don't forget to like, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to this channel for more stories. Now back to my story. When I slammed that door and walked away from the only man who ever saw me at my worst and still called me home, I thought I was freeing myself. I didn't know I was walking into a loneliness so loud it would follow me into every room I entered. Daniel had his flaws, God knows we both did. The long silences, the heavy sighs, the nights we turned our backs to each other in bed, it all added up. I thought I was done pretending, done feeling like I had to carry the weight of everything, the marriage, the kids, the emotional labor. I thought divorce was my fresh start. But nothing feels fresh when your children are crying through the phone, asking when they can come over and see mommy. Nothing feels free when the man who once ran to hold you now won't even answer your texts. I sat in my one-bedroom apartment, barely furnished, the walls too white, too quiet, there were no toys to trip over, no laughter echoing down the hallway, just me and my mistakes. I missed Daniel's laugh, the way his eyes squinted when he was about to tease me. I missed our son crawling into our bed at 6 a.m., his tiny arms wrapped around both of us, like he was holding our family together. But I broke it. I left thinking they'd chase me, that maybe if I left, they'd realize how much they needed me. Instead, they learned how to breathe without me. And now I sit here not free, not happy, just filled with regret. The day snuck up on me. I knew it was coming, circled in red on my wall calendar, alerts set on my phone. But nothing prepared me for how empty I would feel when I woke up on my son's 6th birthday and realized I wasn't there to see him open his eyes. I used to make a big deal of birthdays, woke up early to hang balloons, made pancakes shaped like the number of his new age, and let him tear through presents before school. This year he celebrated in our old house with Daniel, without me. I had asked Daniel if I could come by in the morning, just for a bit, to bring his gift and give him a hug. He responded with a short text. Best to keep it simple this year, you can call. That was it. The woman who carried that boy for 9 months, who stayed up for every fever, who kissed every scraped knee, now reduced to a video call. I tried to hold it together as I FaceTimed him. His little face lit up when he saw me, and my heart broke in places I didn't know existed. I could hear other kids laughing in the background, and Daniel was there, helping set up balloons, the same ones I used to tie with shaking fingers while rushing through my morning routine. "Mommy, are you coming later?" he asked, smiling, his cheeks still chubby with youth. I choked on my answer, "Not today, baby, but I love you more than anything, okay?" He nodded, "Okay, Daddy got me a bike." I smiled, but the tears were already falling. The call ended, and I stared at the black screen like it owed me something, like maybe if I stared long enough, I could pull my family back through it. But I couldn't. I missed his birthday, and no matter what I did from here on out, I would never get that moment back. The first time I saw her, I thought she was just a friend. I was picking up my son for the weekend, the one privilege I still had, and she opened the door. Her smile was polite, almost too polite, and her tone was sweet, but something about it felt territorial. "Hi, you must be Ella," she said, as if I were the stranger. She had on my favorite shade of lipstick, the same one Daniel once said made me look like fire when we were still in love. She was in yoga pants, no ring on her finger, but comfortable enough to be barefoot in my old home. My son came running up to me, and as I hugged him tightly, I saw her step aside like she was already used to these transitions. Daniel came out seconds later, avoiding my eyes. "He's ready to go," was all he said. No explanation, no introduction, no acknowledgement of the woman, clearly playing house in my absence. I drove away, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Was this what I'd left them for? Silence, regret, and now another woman filling the space I used to own. I didn't even know her name, but I knew enough. She was the one who laughed at his jokes now. She was the one who helped pack the school lunches and remembered to put on sunscreen. She was the one folding laundry in the living room while my son watched cartoons, the same ones we used to watch together. That night I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling wondering how quickly I had been replaced. I had convinced myself that Daniel would always keep a space for me, even if just as the mother of his child. But watching her glide through the house so easily shattered that illusion. And worst of all, my son liked her. He mentioned her in passing, how she read bedtime stories with voices, how she helped him build a Lego ship, how she made pancakes with smiley faces, all things I used to do when I was still his home. I didn't expect sympathy, not really. But I thought if anyone could understand my pain, it would be my mother. She had watched my marriage fall apart. She'd listened to my late-night phone calls. The crying, the loneliness, the guilt. She knew I wasn't perfect, but I hoped she was still on my side. So when I visited her one afternoon, fighting back tears after seeing Hannah drop my son off at school, I cracked. I told her everything, how he laughed with her, how she seemed to fit too easily into my old life, how Daniel looked at her, the way he used to look at me. I waited for comfort, but instead, my mother set down her tea, looked me in the eye, and said 4 words I'll never forget. "You did this, Ella." It felt like a slap. She didn't say it with anger, just quiet disappointment. "That made it worse," she went on, gently but firmly, reminding me of the choices I made. The nights I came to her complaining about how tired I was, how I needed space, how I felt like I'd lost myself. "You said you wanted to find yourself," she said, "and now you're angry that someone else stepped into the space you left." I sat in silence. I hated how right she sounded, but a part of me wanted to scream. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't leave thinking he'd move on so soon, or that my son would bond with someone new. I thought I'd have time to figure it out and maybe come back. But time didn't wait. And maybe neither did love. I wrote it on a Tuesday night, sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by unopened bills and silence. The letter wasn't meant to fix anything. I think I just needed to put it all somewhere, to pour out the ache that had been living in my chest since the day I left. I didn't plan to send it. I just needed to feel like I was speaking to him without the weight of his silence pressing back. It began simply, "Daniel, I miss us." And then it unraveled from there. I wrote about the little things, how I still made coffee for 2 out of habit, how I'd catch myself reaching for the passenger door before remembering there was no one there. I told him how hard it was to sleep in a bed that never quite felt like home. I apologized for the way I left, not just physically, but emotionally, for the months I pulled away, shutting him out while expecting him to hold the pieces together. "I thought space would help," I wrote, "but all it did was show me how much you mattered." I wrote about our son, how proud I was of him, how big he'd grown, how much he looked like his dad. I confessed how jealous I felt, watching someone else fill the spaces I used to occupy. "I never expected you to wait forever," I wrote, my hand trembling. By the time I finished, the tears had dried. I folded the letter, placed it in an envelope, and tucked it into the back of my drawer. I never mailed it. Some things, I realized, were better left unsaid. But that night, I finally understood the depth of my regret. And for the first time, I admitted to myself, I had lost him. It started subtly, so small I almost missed it. First, it was Ella instead of Mom, when he called out from across the room. I thought maybe he was just being silly, copying something he heard at school. I laughed it off. But then it happened again, and again. At drop-off during phone calls, in drawings he made, Ella was written where Mom used to be. I asked him gently one day, "Why don't you call me Mom anymore, baby?" He shrugged, fiddling with the zipper of his jacket. "Because I have 2 moms now, you and Miss Hannah." The words sliced through me. I forced a smile and nodded, pretending I wasn't completely shattered. But inside, my heart crumbled. I had walked away from a home, thinking I could return to it if I wanted. That no matter how long it took me to sort out my own mind, my place would still be there. My role would still be mine. But life doesn't pause for you. While I was trying to find myself, my son was finding comfort in someone else. Someone who made his pancakes, packed his lunch, helped with homework, and kissed his forehead goodnight. She wasn't trying to replace me. But children don't wait for perfect timing. They attach to presence. And I had been absent far too long. That night, I cried like I hadn't in years. Not because I was angry at Hannah or Daniel, or even my son. I cried because I realized I'd underestimated the cost of walking away. And for the first time, I understood that the regret I carried wasn't just about losing Daniel. It was about losing them, my family. And this time, I wasn't sure I could ever get them back. I still remember the exact moment. We were standing in the kitchen of the old house, the one with the creaky floors and chipped backsplash we never got around to fixing. Daniel was washing dishes, humming that old Otis Redding song he loved. I had just made a joke about how terrible his singing was, and he turned to look at me, eyes crinkling, lips curled into that familiar crooked smile. It was the kind of look that said, "I know you, I see you, and I love you anyway." That was the last time. Since the divorce, Daniel had become polite, cordial, civil. He spoke with the careful restraint of someone walking through a museum of memories, mindful not to touch anything too fragile. There were no more soft smiles, No more lingering looks. Just brief eye contact and the occasional, take care. But then came the moment that made it final. It was a family cookout. Daniel was there with Hannah. And I came for our son. For a brief moment, Daniel and I ended up alone by the grill, reaching for the same plate. Our hands brushed. He didn't pull away immediately, but when he did, he gave me a look. It wasn't angry, it wasn't bitter. It was empty. That's what broke me. It wasn't that he hated me. It was that he no longer felt anything at all. The warmth was gone, the love had been spent, used up, and quietly buried in the wreckage I left behind. I used to be the love of his life. Now I was just the ex. I turned away quickly, blinking back tears. In that moment I knew. There would be no going back. Some bridges aren't burned. They just disappear. It was a Saturday morning, and I had come early to drop off our son for his weekend with Daniel. The front door was slightly ajar, so I knocked lightly and stepped in. Something we had agreed was fine for co-parenting ease. What I wasn't prepared for was the smell of cinnamon rolls baking, my recipe. And then I saw her. Hannah stood in the kitchen, flour-dusted hands busy shaping the last batch of dough, wearing my apron. The yellow one with the blue embroidery my grandmother had given me at my bridal shower. I had left it behind when I moved out. Didn't even realize it until that moment. Something inside me froze. She looked so natural in that space I once called mine. She laughed at something my son said, then leaned down to give him a kiss on the forehead. He smiled up at her with that same look he used to give me when we baked together on lazy Sundays. I should have said something. Maybe I should have just turned and left. But instead I stood there, rooted to the floor, watching my past play out in front of me, without me. Hannah finally noticed me and greeted me warmly, unaware of the storm building in my chest. Daniel appeared a moment later, his expression unreadable. "I didn't know you'd be early," he said calmly. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Just wanted to beat traffic." He handed me our son's bag, and we exchanged a few words. Surface level, emotionless. I left before the cinnamon rolls came out of the oven. In the car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, feeling like a ghost, not angry, not jealous, just hollow. I had walked away from that life, but I never expected to watch someone else wear it so well. It took me months to find the courage. Months of sleepless nights, missed birthdays, and sitting alone in my apartment staring at old photos I should have deleted but couldn't. I had rehearsed what I'd say 100 times. In the mirror, in my head, in whispered prayers when I wasn't even sure who I was praying to. So when Daniel finally agreed to meet me at the park, I was ready, or at least I thought I was. He sat on the bench across from me, arms folded, guarded but present. I couldn't stop staring at his hands. I used to know those hands like I knew my own. "I owe you an apology," I began, my voice shaking. He didn't interrupt, just nodded slightly, encouraging me to continue. I was selfish. I thought walking away would somehow help me figure out who I was. But all I did was lose the people who mattered most. I paused, waiting for his reaction. There was none. "I hurt you, I hurt our son, and I see that now." "I was wrong, Daniel, so wrong." His gaze didn't soften, it didn't harden either. It was still. "Thank you," he said. "I've waited a long time to hear that." "But," I whispered, bracing myself, "but it doesn't change where we are now." Those words stung more than I expected. I had prepared myself for rejection, but not for acceptance without reconciliation. "I'm happy now, Ella, I have peace. Our son is happy, I forgive you. But we can't go back. We're not those people anymore." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. The apology had been for me, but the forgiveness, that was his gift. And it came with a truth I wasn't ready for. Some damage just can't be undone. There's a strange silence that follows the closing of a chapter you never imagined would end. Long after the papers were signed, after the last argument echoed out of the walls, after I moved my boxes and he repainted the bedroom, we both kept breathing, just apart. And now, even after the apology, the truth had settled in like dust on an untouched shelf. Daniel had moved on, not just with Hannah but with his life, his peace, his heart. I spent months trying to convince myself I had made the right decision when I walked out, that I was finding myself, healing. But now I knew the truth. I wasn't searching, I was running. Running from commitment, from the mirror, from the weight of being loved that deeply. And now, I live with the consequences. Our son knows I love him, and that matters. We laugh together, we build new traditions, and I pour myself into motherhood in ways I never knew I could. But there's still a hollow ache when he comes home talking about Hannah's cookies, or how she helped with his science project. It's not jealousy, it's grief. Grief for the life I had, the one I chose to leave. Grief for the version of me who couldn't see what she had when she had it. People think divorce is just about signing papers, but it's not. It's about walking into an empty apartment, setting the table for one, and realizing your silence is no longer sacred, just lonely. Still, I get up each morning, I try to be better, wiser, softer. Because regret doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of redemption. Even if it's not with him, please like, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories.